Hi friends, I'm here to do a very delayed favorite books of 2021 so far video. This is gonna be my favorite books from like January up until the end of June. So not including all the books I read in July, which I had an amazing reading month in July. And multiple books I read there's probably gonna end on my all-time favorite books of the year. I'll link my July wrap up here if you're interested. But I really wanted to do this video even though it's very delayed just because like I have a lot of books. I had an amazing reading year. I'm usually quite good at picking books that I know I'm going to enjoy, but I have just like read so many great books, and I wanted to kind of like highlight some of them. A lot of them aren't here with me physically, um, because they're left at the house I used to live, just because I haven't moved all my stuff because I'm friends with people who own that house and I can keep it there for as long as I'd like, which is very fortunate for me because my life's been a mess lately and like I don't know, all these like nice things happen, also all these like really horrible things happen. So it's really weird to just like make a video, but I kind of want to like do stuff that I think is fun, and making videos is one of the things that I think is fun. I know my content's been very like monotone lately, like most like wrap-ups and TBRs and kind of like, yeah, the same videos over and over, but I am planning to make a video where I kind of like recommend books based on different like Björk albums. Like Björk's one of my favorite musicians, so yeah, I want to like do a video where I recommend a book based on each of her albums, which I also have ranked because I love lists. Then I kind of want to make a video where I recommend my favorite like SFF novellas. And so yeah, let me know if you're interested in that content. I'm going to make it anyway. Also, if like the light is quite strange, I feel like half my body is very like in the shadows. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about my top 10 favorite books, not ranked, just in the order that I read them, of the first half of 2021. And I have very few of them here physically because they're at my old house. And yeah, so you can see all my coffee stuff and random stuff in the back, including Vespertine, Björk's best album. But yeah, here are my top 10 books of from the first half. Oh, I'm taking so many words to say so little, so few things. Let's try again. Here are my top 10 books from the first half of 2021. The first one is Everfair by Nisi Shawl, which it was a hassle for me to acquire this when I first did. I was so glad and it really lived up to my expectations. Nisi Shawl, even though I only read one full-length novel, by the way, I think they only have one full-length novel out, but yeah, it's one of my favorite SFF writers. They're just so innovative, what they write is so interesting, but this is an adult, I'd say fantasy, sci-fi, speculative, retro, Afrofuturistic piece of steampunk historical fiction. That's basically what this is. A lot of words again, but it kind of follows this like altered history of the colonization of Congo under King Leopold from Belgium's rule, and it follows all these different people that create this kind of like utopia on the land instead, but it's kind of this like strange mix between like the actual like native people of the lands and their kingdom, and then these like white utopian socialists who come from Britain to then create this like socialist utopia. Yeah, and it's just full of so much like possibility, and it has this very like utopic vision while kind of like accounting for all the issues that these people bring with them. And yeah, I don't know, it's just an interpretation of like race, gender, sexuality is inherently, it is like inherently very queer, and it's very interesting. I think that like if you like really quick pace stories where you know what's happening at all times and follow people very consecutively, you're not gonna like this because this is like all over the place, but like in the best way. You really like have to work for it. Yeah, and I forgot to like mention one of the biggest like parts of this book is like they have all these like also former slaves and returning to the land, which is such an interesting narrative. And again, it's filled with like so much hope, but also these like very complicated um politics. And yeah, I think this is a book that you should definitely read if you're interested in speculative fiction, and especially Afrofuturism or Afro-retrofuturism. And Jared Onyx Pages has done an interview with Nisi talking about this book, which is really great, and I'm going to link in the description. But yeah, that's one of my favorite books of the year so far. And then my second favorite, not second favorite, they're chronological, not ranked by favorite, but my next favorite is Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. And I already done a full video review of this, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but this follows three people, Ames, who was detransition, and then Reese, and then Katrina is a woman that like Ames impregnates, and it's about like the three of them trying to create or considering creating or imagining creating a family together. And this is just incredibly funny. And it's just such like a trans book. I feel like it doesn't like pounder to like cis people anyway, which I really, really enjoy. And yeah, it's just incredibly interesting, very funny and very sad. And I think my review, if you want to know more on my thoughts on it, I think this like definitely deserves all the hype that it's gotten. And one more thing, I hate how some people complain about characters being unlikable because like they're literally just real people, and people sometimes do unlikable things, and it isn't as if you're trans and then you have to be such a morally outstanding person at all times. But yeah, Teachers Baby Torrey Peters, a great book. And the next, which I again don't have my physical copy here for some reason, is Unknown Language by Lemmey. And this is this kind of polyphonic text that Lemmey has written together with like Hildegard of Bingen, who's this like 12th century mystic. And it also has this like really great kind of like sci-fi added story in the beginning, and it's yeah very polyphonic, very strange, filled with like mysticism, gender, weird stuff, sexuality. And I think that like if any of those things sounds interesting, you should check the book out. And that's Unknown Language by Lemmey. And then the next book, which is my favorite book of the year so far, is The Gilda Stories by Jewelle Gomez. I've also done a full video talking about this. I'll link that somewhere as well. But this follows Gilda, who's a black lesbian vampire, and kind of like her life through these like different events in her life at like different time periods, like in different years. And it's about like vampirism as mutual aid. It's about just living a life and like reconfiguring what life can be outside of capitalism through like love, sorry, tram, through love and interpersonal relationships. And yeah, it was published in 1999, but it's such like an amazing vision of what life could be, while also because like it does kind of like, because it starts I think yeah in the 1850s, but then it ends like in the future where the world is like been horribly wrecked by like climate change. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful tale, like queer love and black indigenous resistance, and again like telepathy and vampirism as like mutual aid. And it kind of shows how these like concepts that we like believe to be inherently like cruel or like inherently taking can actually be mutual and beautiful. So that's The Gilda Stories by Jewelle Gomez. I feel like I'm like about to cry, but just because like I've been about to cry every day for like a month. So I'm not crying because of the books, I'm crying because of life. um, and then the next book is the Body Produced by Love Is the body produced by love by nisha ramayya, and it's a poetry collection that's kind of like, as it's described, as twisting its way through devotion, sacrifice, and bliss. And yeah, it's just like really, really beautiful poetry about like the body, heritage, diasporic identity in Britain, um, and kind of like how the body can assume many forms of love. And it's just a very beautiful poetry collection, and you should definitely check it out if you enjoy poetry that's actually good. Because a lot of poetry is not good, but some poetry is amazing. So you should read that poetry. And then the next book that I want to talk about is Primeval and Other Stories. I don't know if I say primeval, correct, by Olga Tokarczuk, and she's very famous because she won the Nobel Prize in Literature, I think in 2018. This is the first book by her that I read, and it's been translated from the Polish. I really enjoyed it. It's about this like village called Primeval, and it's kind of like based of these like fairy tale tropes, but it kind of like it's very much about like Polish identity and like having lived through war and myth, and there are these like archangels like in the village. It's about like place and belonging and family and horror, and like the book is quite like inherently cruel, and it made me quite upset. But I also think it's like beautifully written and like strangely like metaphysical, like especially towards the end, like it made every day seem like so expansive and in many ways just like way too much, but also very like divine. So I very much enjoyed that book. And then the next book that's also one of my favorite books of the year so far is Sorrowland by River Solomon. I did a whole like reading vlog reading this because it was my most anticipated book of the year. So yeah, I linked that video as well. But it follows a Warren, who's this like young albino black woman who escapes this like black nationalist I guess a cult, like commune, not commune, but like a cult, um, while pregnant and gives a birth in the woods, and it's about like um, yeah, again like very gender love parenthood. It's really weird and mystical and freaky, and like I know some people didn't like enjoy the last part, but like I think it is great sci-fi as well. But yeah, I'll link my reading log if you're interested in hearing more about this. And then my next fave is the Seep by Shana Porter. And this is sci-fi, and it's about this like entity. It's like first contact with this like entity called the Seep, meeting humanity in the near future, and kind of like how they have to coexist, and how being in the Seep like makes life better in a lot of ways, but also like it's a form of like assimilation. And this is like one of the best sci-fi books that I've read. I thought it was so fucking great. It follows the main character, who's like Trina. She's a trans woman, and her wife decides, mainly because like the trauma she's endured in her past, to be reborn to the Seep and like live life again, and become a baby and then be raised. But then like her wife Trina, but then Trina finds this to be like an incredible loss. And it's really interesting because like you do really understand I can't remember her wife's name, but like her wives want to like live a life that hasn't been shaped by the trauma she's endured, and like knowing what life could be without like having to like carry this thing. But then obviously like for Trina, she is losing her wife and like has to grieve her. And I just really enjoyed it. Like it's so interesting. I love the society. I love the characters. I also kind of liked how it wasn't this thing you would expect, where it's like, oh, the Seep is bringing all these good things, but it's actually bad. Like it's much more like nuance, and it's kind of like this thing that like you have humanity and the Seep, these two like alive entities, and they do have to coexist, and to coexist you have to compromise. I thought that was like super interesting. I'm planning to reread this because I was in a weird like headspace first time I read it, so I'm gonna reread it. I read it like all in one go the first time I read it. But yeah, I'm gonna reread it and then like film a review or like a discussion video about it because I love it so much. And then the second to last book I want to talk about is Assatan Autobiography by Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur was a formerly member of the Black Panther Party and like a vital figure in the Black Liberation movement. And she was continuously like wrongfully framed and put on trial for these like supposed crimes against the police, against private property. And she was like, this is like her memoir kind of her life and the way she became radicalized, and also of her experiences like in the carceral system and like immense like police and state violence she had to endure. And this is no spoiler because like it's a fact in the world. She did end up like escaping prison and like lives in exile still in Cuba. And this is just like so incredibly amazing, and just like someone me is an emotional bitch at the best of days. This is just incredibly amazing, and such a like she writes so beautifully, and also it's just really interesting to read about like how she became radicalized and like her experience like within these movements, especially like as especially with the Black Panther movement, how through all these like horrible like interferences with the FBI or whatever, like sending fake letters and like planting people and like doing everything they could to like fuck everything up, which is interesting if you read that together with this as well. But yeah, that was sort of an autobiography, but I think you should definitely read, like, if you're gonna read like one autobiography or like memoir this year, read that one. And then the last book I want to talk about, which is like a big surprise for me, is Luster by Raven Lani. And Luster follows this young black woman. Her name's Edie, who starts a relationship with this like older white man who's in an open marriage. And it's about not their relationship, but kind of like her life, living in New York, like having to work, being treated horribly, her relationship to this like, in my opinion, very annoying man, and but also she ends up having to move into his house because that's due to like his wife, who I was a really interesting character, mainly because they have an adopted black daughter, and there's a lot of things like they just can't do for her due to the fact that like they haven't made like an effort just like taking care of like her hair and like that kind of stuff, just about like all these like people living together. And I just thought it was like really like fun and sad and well written. Like I just enjoyed it so much. This is best that's actually like a 5-star based purely of like enjoyment, even though it's also like very sad and just a lot like abuse and like miscarriages and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's Luster by Evan Lilani, a great book. But yeah, those the non-physical ones are my favorite books from the first half of 2021. So yeah, let me know if you read them, if you're planning to read them, which video I think I should make next, the Björk or the SFF, sorry, the trauma again. SFF novellas. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.